You ready, Rebecca? Hey, you guys. My name is Aisha Malone. I am the owner and co-founder of Rose Café. A little bit about Rose Café. Rose Café is a reading cafe that I bring into the south side of Chicago, more specifically the 60628 area code, which is Roseland. This is the community that I live in. I was educated in, and I educate in. One of the things about Roseland that I wanted to kind of talk to people about is the book desert that we have, where there's literally no access to books over here. We have no bookstores within 10 miles of where I live. And so what I wanted to do was kind of cut the book desert. I wanted to give access to literacy to people in the community, to have a space where we can read, where we can have access to literacy, and where we can have high level conversations. And that's how Rose Cafe started. And Rebecca is going to kind of talk a little bit about some of the things we were doing and that we're going to do.
Hi, everyone. My name's Rebecca. I'm the co-founder and creative director at Rose Cafe. Can you hear me okay? Oh, sorry, my screen's kind of lagging. I'm a former elementary school teacher. I taught with Aisha, and now I'm in school studying public policy. And as we'll talk a little bit later, I know, Mr. Adams, I know you know the importance of literacy, but we really bonded over how important literacy is, and that's how we began this journey of opening up the bookstore together. And one thing that we have done is we host book drives in the community where we source books from other bookstores and donations from people around the city, and we give out books just for free. We have given out your book to a lot of people. We love giving this book out. Since June of 2020, we've given out over 9,000 books to the Roseland neighborhood. That's something that we're very proud of in efforts to dismantle the book desert. So we'll get started right after. If you could just introduce yourself, please.
Hi. Well, look, I want to first say I think what you two ladies are doing is amazing. And it's one of the reasons why I wanted to clear my schedule to be on with you all, because I'm just being pulled in so many directions with managing my practice. The book has been out, but I'm from the Roseland community. So I know exactly what Aisha is speaking to. And it's like all of a sudden, everybody got a memo that we didn't get in both the bookstores and including the libraries. They started to close. You would literally have to go all the way over to 103rd, to the library over there by Gately. So just want to say how proud I am of you two, and I just met you all, but it's something that's desperately needed. My name is Jarrett Adams. I'm an attorney, but before I was an attorney and representing people, I was being represented as a 17-year-old. I was falsely accused of a sexual assault along with two of my friends. We had went to a college party. We had a consensual encounter, was invited up to this young lady's room. This young lady was white, and her and her roommate got into an argument, and that led to a false accusation that you would think would literally have stopped at the door, because there was just so much evidence to show that it was a false allegation. But then that's when the wheels of prejudice and injustice and all these Black boys, if they didn't do this, they were going to do something, started to turn. It was something that I didn't ever have an experience with. I grew up again on the south side of Chicago, born and raised on 97 and Ellis, but my aunt stayed on 122nd. So I would literally be on 122nd or in London Town or on 97th all my life. And one of the things that my aunts and my grandmother would do to keep me out of trouble, they would have me do book reports, right? So I don't want people to think that within my journey to becoming an attorney, I made it to the prison door and they gave me a smart pill and I just swallowed it. And all of a sudden I became smart enough to get to where I am now. I am no different than a number of young Black boys who watched the destruction of their city from their front porch, right? And so when you go off and experience the law firsthand, that's when the reality comes in and it says, well, damn, all I knew was rap songs. I didn't know any of my constitutional rights, when I was sitting there in the police station. So I went through my journey, and thankfully, with my aunts, with the help of the Wisconsin Innocence Project, I was able to get my conviction overturned, record expunged, but the damage that was done to me was not. There was a 10-year gap in my resume, and I literally had to go around explaining to everyone why I should be given a shot, even though I didn't have a record. And so I frustratingly so went through this first chapter after release in my life of mental health care, of, going to school and just trying to put my life back together. And it was just like searching for a light switch in a dark room, right? You're just all over the place trying to figure it out on your own. And so what I did was I started to document and take notes, because I said to myself, if I go through this innocent, the court has declared such, record expunged, like, how do I come home and it's like, good luck? How do I come home and I'm on my mother's couch and, if it wasn't for them and their encouragement for me to get back and pick up the pieces, there's no telling, where I might be. And so that's what brought me to the book, to writing the book, which, thankfully got me on the show with you guys today. And, it's just one of these things where I had to find a way to tell a story that unfortunately isn't uncommon with young Black men. And I had to find a way to tell it so that way people can close their eyes and just see the injustice and not the color of the people involved.
I know we're supposed to, I'm sorry, Rebecca. I know that it's a systematic way we do this. We want to answer,
Okay.
but just based off what you're saying, so we're not closing our eyes to it. With writing this book, was that the whole intentionality of it? Like, you wanted people to see like some of the wrong thing that's going on so that it could be bigger and like we can fix the system? Are we trying to fix the system here with exposure, telling the truth?
We're just doing a lot of talking right now, Aisha. Like, that's really what it is. It's a lot of people talking right now. The only way you really get to that change is if you put the people who are directly impacted into the leadership position of the issue. And so what I meant by having people close their eyes and just see a wrong is a wrong is that for African-American people, for people of color, we singing in the same choir, right? We see this all day long. So what I wanted to do was, everyone has a mother. Everyone has, a father. Everyone comes from a community. So I wanted to show the impact on my parents, on the communities in which I came from, in which predominantly a number of African-American men and men of color come from, who are in these institutions. So I wanted to write it in a way to say, look, if you think that we're correcting, we're not. We're warehousing people. And who are we warehousing if it snared me in this thing, right? How many other Jarrett Adams are there that don't have the opportunity to have their candle lit before it's blew out?
How was this process for you of writing the book? So that's interesting to hear that you were writing notes as you went along. So how was it now I know this book just came out in September, going back to this time in your life? How was that process?
I mean, it was difficult. It took me 2 years to do the book. And I recorded the book, had it transcribed, and then me and the editors just went back, because it was important for it to be in my voice. When you read it, you hear South Side of Chicago when you read it. And I wanted that because I really, this is my way of paying it forward. Not everyone is going to go off to become an attorney, but I'd be damned if I let little Black boys and girls think that the only way out is by being an entertainer. So that's why I wanted to put in the raw and the realness of the book.
In the book, at the end, and we're just gonna go with it, how we're going with it. In the end, just based off what you're saying, you had said like at the end of the book, there was a little girl that you saw. First, you saw the son, the grandson, the son, the father, and the grandfather in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then you was like, you know, the little girl, she openly opened her arms to get patted down, you know, and you asked like, how do we break the cycle? Who are you talking about? We.
All of us are responsible. And you know, look, the system was created and it wasn't created by people who look like me. And so, you know, calling a spade, we all need to be all hands on deck in breaking this cycle. And you know, we're not winning right now. We're not any safer with all of these war on drugs and all of that. All it did was lock up people, you know, who really should have been treated like the opioid people are being treated right now with treatment. So, you know, it's a situation where I really believe that the focus is what we're doing and with literacy amongst the young communities that seem to send its youth to the Department of Corrections, and in turn, the Department of Corrections sends its damaged goods back to the communities of color, and they're at the age of 40.
Yeah.
There was a part, you know, along those lines that really stuck out to me that I want to read, if I can find it quickly. Oh, okay. So this was when you were in prison. It says, I started working with guides in the law library, helping them earn their high school diplomas. I'm struck by how many of them simply cannot read. The ones who can't comprehend or remember what they've read 30 seconds ago. I've interacted with some of these men and I know they're not stupid. In our failing educational system, they have simply been neglected and uneducated. I'm at first appalled, then I'm angry. And this part really stuck out to me, and it's something that we spoke a lot about, Aisha and I, as educators. That was always on my mind as a third grade teacher. You know, I've heard statistics where they build prisons based on third grade reading levels.
Absolutely.
And you saw that firsthand. I thought it was so interesting how I was hoping you could talk more about the importance of literacy in your life, because you mentioned before, during, and after how important literacy was for you.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to what I was saying in terms of, you know, my grandmother was the matriarch of the family, you know, with her little bitty 4'10". She was as strong as they come, you know, coming down from Mississippi. And she, you know, would have this little book called The Daily Bread. Some people will still remember what that is. And that was like my first early reading. She would have me read the day's passage to her. Or we stayed on like a busy street where my grandmother's house was. It was right across the street from the DMV on 95th and King Drive. So literally my life was this nexus, right? 95th and King Drive, 97th and Ellis, 122nd right off of Michigan.
You should see that DMV line right now with COVID. It's crazy.
I'm sure it is. And so
and I teach right there on 118th in Indiana right now. I'm in that community
right
a day.
So this is what my grandmother would do. So because that street was busy by the DMV, right? Cars zipping all the way back. So in order to keep me in Ike's vision, I's vision, she would have me like in the kitchen reading off the directions for like paprika and just whatever she could do to keep me busy. And so I think that and she would tell me stories about how her cousin or uncle was hung or killed, you know, for reading, right? And so I had it very early on that reading was the key. And then when I started to read, I started to open up more doors in my life and with literacy and stuff like that. So when I got to prison, I was saddened and I was angered, man, by what I saw, because I felt like the system is the bully, and here are all the men that they've bullied. A lot of these people were taking plea deals and they weren't guilty. They were just tired of sitting in the county jail.
But Jarrett, let me ask you this. Do you think that when you talk about like, you know, the system and like all our people that's in jail, because I'm from 104th and State and I teach on 118th in Indiana, I went to Corliss. Every grandmother wasn't in the kitchen reading the Daily Bread and asking their kids to talk about like paprika, and the grandmothers and the aunties wasn't talking about like, you know, the people who their ancestors. Me and Rebecca was talking recently. I'm like, well, he had it a little different because like what they were like what the elders and your matriarchs of your family was telling you, a lot of people didn't get. Do you think the fact that what your grandmother gave you made you who you are? And if with answering that, do you think when you don't get that, when you don't get like that, your grandmother in the kitchen telling you to read, your grandmother telling you to appreciate reading, your grandma telling you about the lynching and, you know, their experiences, does that make you a little different?
Experiences make who we all are. Experiences, how we're raised. If you grow up in a house full of people who yell, you'll raise your voice without even knowing it. Like
Okay.
that it is. But let me also be very clear in this. I was locked up with men who were guilty of heinous offenses, who grew up in households with mom and dad and wealthy households. So it's not all one swoop of a paintbrush. You know, there are different things that's made up. And then let me also say this. Right now, what we're seeing is we're dealing with the remnants of this crack era, right? And let me be clear with what I mean by that. So, and this goes to answer your question that you just asked. Yeah, in the 80s, it was a lot of those grandmamas like my grandmother around, right? And you know what happened? Here's what happened. So we started to notice that friends in the neighborhood were going to go live with their grandmothers. And we like, what's going on?
Right.
Then we would inquire, they'd be like, oh, so-and-so down south, or so-and-so went to the army. So-and-so was really locked up for drugs or, you know, some other offense or something like that. So now in the 80s to the 90s, the parents are the victims of the war on drugs or being addicted to drugs or the crimes that result from drugs. So now 90 to 2000, you know, you got grandmothers, now they're passing away now. So now we're in the 2000s. Who are the grandmothers, Aisha?
That's the truth. That's the truth. And that's it.
You see, you get where I'm going? So when
I
you,
got it, 100%.
yeah, so when you ask that, I had to make sure that I framed it from that lens. Look, yeah, we might not be able to replace grandmothers. So where do we have to start? Right with our kids. I said we have to start. We have to put as much as we possibly can and dump it on the educational system of the youth, many of which you guys were teaching when you met.
So when we were reading the book, there was a underlining theme of God, right? In the beginning, you was at first when you had first went there, you was like, so where is God, right? And then you went to another prison system that was a little bit better than the county, which a lot of prison system is better than the county. Like, oh, so God must be here. And then your mom, your aunt, like, pray to God, 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 God. And then he was like, okay, I see God. There's a big theme of God in this book. Is that intentional? And if it is intentional, Jarrett, what do you want people who read this book to kind of take away from, like, you know, faith when it comes to like getting through things?
Yeah, I mean, it was intentional. I mean, that's how I was raised. I wanted the book to be true to form and how I was raised. And you know, how a lot of African American people come up. You know, just being beat up so much, you know, makes you turn your attention to things of comfort, to faith. And we found faith in our religion. And so you know, as I'm going through, I've said this before, and I hope you understand, and I hope, you know, any believers looking will understand this as well. My faith was learned. It wasn't earned up until I went through this process. So what I mean by learned is this: you grow up in these neighborhoods, you grow up in the household. Going to church and Sunday school ain't an option for a lot of folks. You're going. You understand what I mean? Going. We're gonna make a big deal and go to Red Lobster after you get baptized, but you're going to church. You know what I mean? So So for me, you know, I wanted to speak about that because I wanted other folks going through stuff to understand that faith isn't something you can hold, grab, touch, or taste. You have it and you're able to maintain it through other people's testimony. And this isn't my story. This is my testimony of my journey that I went through. I had to believe in something, and it would have been a lie if I just said I always knew it was going to be all right, because I didn't. And so I think that it gives others faith as well, and also inspiration to continue to hold on to your faith while you're going through something.
I called it. I called it. You know, I'm like, I said, he keeps talking about God, like, and I grew up with my granny, but I wanted to know, like, was that intentional? Like, did you do that on purpose? Rebecca.
This is kind of going back to the conversation earlier about, you know, other people that you were in prison with, and other people that, you know, just the prison industrial system. You talk a lot about the book, throughout the book, the theme of the disposable Black man. I want to know, how did you make sure that you were not disposable?
That's a good question.
I wanted my lick back. You know, I mean, that's the best way for me to you know what it was, man. I'm sitting up in here in the courtroom, and you got to think about something. I've been raised by all women, my mom, my aunts, you know, my grandmother. So I'm sitting up in here. They know who they raised, but it enraged me to be depicted this way. And so I wanted so bad to get out, because the 10 years didn't just have me in prison, it mentally and emotionally incarcerated my family as well.
Yeah.
So when I got out, I wanted to make up ground to let them know that who they believed in was a good bet. And so it was a part of me going out here to make up this ground. And I'm not going to sit up here and tell you guys I knew I was going to be an attorney and stuff like that. But as I started to matriculate through both prison and getting out, I could just see the field so clear. It's crazy, but I could see the legal field so clear. But also I could see how in my community, someone to remove all the legalities and big mumbo jumbo and just tell me what's going on is what our community needs the most.
Do you think that you would have found law school or being a lawyer this whole career if you hadn't been to prison?
I can't say for certain no or yes. And the reason why I can't say you know, no is because 10 years is a long time. There's no telling what would have sparked my interest in the law. Maybe I'm sparked. Maybe my interest in the law is sparked by going to an event as opposed to going to prison wrongfully for 10 years. Really? So, I mean, that's how I look at it. But I also look at it like this: if my life is a book, I refused, and I tell people, other people this as well, refuse to let society or other people place a period where God only intended a comma to be. It's just as simple as that.
You better say that. You better say that.
It really is. And I just, you know, I refuse to be, I refuse to let somebody else's perception become my reality. That's the best way for me to put it.
That's what we were just talking about. I'm sorry. We were just talking about this before when we were thinking about what questions to ask you. You know, getting the context of your life, hearing about your family, where you grew up, your likes, your dislikes, all of that, you know, when you were arrested, that was all like stripped from you. But, you know, we were talking about how there's different, you know, there's people from all over the city, there are different kinds of Black people, but it doesn't matter. The context doesn't matter for people when they say we need to arrest this young Black man. That's all it is. And to us, this story was just so incredible. And we keep talking about how like your family, your faith, but also, just yourself, that drive that you had to push through. And it was like a roller coaster. It wasn't a constant drive you had. It was, it was really incredible. It was a really incredible story.
Yeah.
And when you talk about your faith, one of the things you were saying was like when your mom had came and visit you and you had saw the look in her eyes, she was crying, and you're like, okay, I want to change. I'm gonna do this. I got you, mama, right?
Mhm.
Then you really didn't change. You kind of like staggered. You didn't do anything. You didn't do shit. But it was when your aunt said that you are, why me? And then she was like, because you are a strong one. And he was like, you know what? I am the strong one. And I kind of wanted you to kind of talk to like our audience, because what we do is we put our videos on Instagram, on YouTube for people to hear it. What is the difference between you seeing something like, okay, because you saw your mom crying when she came and visited you, she was frail. Of course she missed you. She hadn't talked to you for a long time. But then when your aunt had called you and said, you the strong one, you said, why me?
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, you the strong one. And he was like, you know what? I am the strong one. And that's really when your change started to happen. What is the difference between seeing something as affirmations and someone telling you like, you the man, you the king, you should do it? How do we talk to our like kids? I'm a teacher, I got 2 sons.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between you seeing something and someone actually believing in it and throwing Jesus with a little sprinkle of Jesus in it? Because the women in your life is faith-based.
Yeah.
She would have never said that had it not been like she knew that God was doing something to you for a reason. So like, what is the difference?
Yeah, I honestly, for me, it was the consistency. Like they had a 3-tiered approach. It was my mom, my 2 aunts, and literally one would send a letter, the other one would take a call, the other one would send a Bible verse, the other would take a call. So it was a staggered approach that they used. And I think that the replica that needs to happen is where the grandmas and all that type of stuff is gone, the community has to fill that void and help and assist with the raising and the protection of our kids and stuff like that. And so what I believe is this. I believe that as much as I remember hearing a report of a school on the south side of Chicago, and I'm not gonna name the celebrity name or anything like that, but they held the kids after school because the celebrity was supposed to come in and say hi, just basically say hi. The celebrity was supposed to get there before school ended, but some time, traffic, whatever it was. So he ended up holding the kids over. Celebrity came, drive by basically, hey, how you doing? Keep up the good work, and kept going. And I say that to say this. What if we had that same type of energy to get, lawyers, doctors, astronauts? There's 2 Black men right now who are the strongest, basically 2 Black men in the city of New York right now. And that is the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District and the U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York. These are 2 Black men who are in the highest positions of prosecution, that we've seen in some time. And I think that the Eastern District, that might be the first time. But I say that as an example to say this. Imagine if we had the same type of energy that we do for like entertainers and holding our kids as we did for professionals. Imagine if we glorified being a teacher and how cool that is to our kids, right? Imagine if, we glorified, how cool it would be to be a lawyer or be a doctor or be something like this. And it can't be one time. Like we have to get in front of these kids as much as the entertainers and stuff like that are in front of the kids, because those are the role models. Those were my role models when I was a kid. And I said that jokingly, but it was the truth. I literally could repeat, frontwards and backwards, the Tupac album in 1998, right? Because that's when I was arrested. But I couldn't repeat one constitutional amendment that afforded me the right to say I want an attorney.
Mm-hmm.
You know why we named it Rose Café?
I thought it was Rose. I was going to ask about that.
Everybody thought it was Rose. It's Rose Cafe. The rose grew from concrete.
That's it. That's it. That is it. When did you guys start this?
During the pandemic last year, they kind of like tore Roseland up, and I'm like Roseland.
Yeah.
My mom and my grandmother had a beauty salon on 115th in Indiana. Then my dad bought a house over here on 104th and State.
Okay.
And I am who I am, right? I can't deny who I am. And they like tore the community up.
Yeah.
And I've always been the little girl that be like, so why?
Yeah.
Why we do it like that?
Yeah.
I have a big brother, my brother, I was telling Rebecca today, literally just told her my brother's story about him getting locked up.
Yeah.
And he got locked up and tried as an adult as well. And he spent 4 years in prison.
Okay.
And because we wanted to ask, but we didn't know we didn't know like what questions was like logistical, like was just too easy, because why do they charge you as an adult when you like are a kid?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, they did that to my brother, but my brother was one of the people who had parts in tearing the community up. And
Right.
I'm like, so why y'all do that?
Yeah.
Like, you should relax. But seriously. And so we just like, so they like, because none of this is ours. And I'm like, when would it be ours?
Right. Yeah.
So how do we get it to be ours? And they like own something.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what do we need over here? And I know exactly because I'm a teacher. But I had posted something. Rebecca had texted me instantly.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing? What are you trying to do? What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, well, I think we need to open up a business. I think it has something to do with reading. That's all I had. I knew that it had something to do with reading. I just knew that. I didn't know if it was books. I didn't know if it was notes, a place where you could like write and take notes from a college student.
Right.
But I just knew it needed to be something where you had like a space of calmness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because it's so much that goes on around you out here.
It is.
I just know, like, if I grew up over here, if I had a place to go to like gather my thoughts, to like relax, I'm good. I guess I'm successful. But what if I had this as a teenager?
Mm-hmm.
Like what if I had like a space to go to as a teenager? The whole thing with Rose Cafe, I had told Rebecca, like, let's make a note-take cafe. Because I was all about notes in college. She's like, note-take.
Like, sorry, if I'm gonna be a part of this, that's not the name.
I'm like, note-take cafe. And it was all about like gathering your thoughts, because we need a place outside of our home, because our homes, if you know what you know, your homes can be the place that can literally take you down.
No, it can. It can. Wait, is there a physical location that you guys have?
So we're trying to get a physical location. Well, we have a physical location. We're doing like on 107th in Michigan.
Okay.
It was an old cleaners over there. And then we have a place on 109th in Michigan that the city want us to kind of like get. Because once we like started doing this, it blew up and everybody like, oh, that might be okay over here.
Yeah.
So we're lingering between two locations, but we know that this is like literally what Roseland needs, because like they're also making Roseland a medical district.
Yeah.
And before gentrification starts, we got to put our name on something, because they'll take it away.
Yeah, I know.
But if they take it away, that happens, but you can't take nothing that I own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And all I want is just something of serenity, like something serene, something like solid, something cool, that's different than like, what we see every day, because we like desperately need. Because you can't keep faulting us for stuff.
Yeah, no.
If you give us nothing.
And Rebecca, where are you from? Are you from the South Side too, Rebecca?
No, I'm from the northern suburbs.
Okay. All right. And you came to the city?
I was happy to hear about the Wisconsin Innocence Projects. I went to UW-Madison, so I was happy about my Badgers. But then I taught with Aisha. We taught at CICS Wrightwood. It's on the southwest side.
Yeah.
And I really loved teaching, but just just seeing firsthand like the inequities in my experience versus my students, it drove me to want to go back to school. So that's why I'm studying public policy now, hopefully
Okay, good stuff.
education policy.
So we just clicked because we was on the third grade team together. I was the reading teacher, she was the science and social studies teacher.
Okay.
And we was a team. So you know how you do when you're on the team, you hold each other up, you lift each other up. And what she didn't have, if I got it, she got it. And no one in the school could treat her differently.
Yeah. No, that's cool stuff.
You couldn't treat her different because she on my team.
Yeah.
Like, hey, she's good.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's how me and her like genuinely like had a connection with each other. I had told her one day, and I can remember the day, and I was telling her like, I gotta do something in my community. I'm like, I don't know what it needs to be, but I gotta do something. I want my community like they have it over here in Evergreen. Because I go to Evergreen to teach, but I go to Roseland to live.
And it ain't that far, is it?
It's not that far, but I'd be damned if they have all of these and we got nothing. But my kids live over here. Now I'm a parent. Now I'm concerned. Like, why they got that and we don't? And so that's how, and she was like, whatever she's always, her and her family, it's always been like, whatever you got going on, I'm gonna support you. And it's just been that.
No, that's cool stuff. Well, I want you two to know that you have my support as well too. Make sure you keep in contact. I would love to do, I mean, who knows when we're going to be back in person, but I would love to do something in person, you know, out there on the South Side. So you guys.
Because you don't live here, right?
So I don't live there, but I have an office there. And so I'm there every month, like checking on my mom and aunts and stuff like that. So, you know, I'm there once a month.
I have a last question, and it's just been bothering me.
Last question, because I got another one too.
Is there a way to hold lawyers accountable, like your lawyer that did nothing for you? It is so frustrating, and I don't know too much about how all this works, but
yeah,
I wanted him and the girl that accused you. How do people like that? How do we hold them accountable?
Unfortunately, they're protected by the system, and it's ineptness. You know, you're not going to get a prosecutor to come after someone who made a false claim, you know, because then they, quote unquote, don't want to discourage anyone else from making a legitimate claim. I don't see how those two add up, but I mean, that's just the excuse that they'll give. And then in terms of the lawyer, like, I remember getting out and everyone is confused where they're like, okay, well, if someone is wrongfully convicted, they certainly are going to be entitled to a bag of money. That's just not the case. You literally have to, it's a case by case basis. So going after my attorney, we realized he didn't have, number one, he didn't have a thriving practice, which is why he was taking appointed cases in the first place. Okay. Number two, he didn't have malpractice insurance. So who do I get a judgment on? Like, you get a judgment on him, it's no different than having a judgment on a bag of garbage, because neither one of them can pay. So that's another reason why I had to get out and not waste time and not let the anger consume me, but just get right to work.
Yeah.
And so my last question, it has something to do with, on page 138, you kind of talked about prison is not a solution. You know, well, that prison system wasn't a solution. And just because of your experience and your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge, if we can look to the future and be optimistic, right? Like nothing is concrete, right?
Yeah.
How would a prison system look where it's not a revolving door? You know, you in one day, you out one day. What does a prison system have to have for us to get the consequence, boom, get the services, right? Get out in civilization and change. Like how does that look?
So are you able to see like the icons of each one of us right now on the top of the screen? So right now you're in the middle, right?
Yeah.
So me and Rebecca are on the opposite sides, right? Me and Rebecca need to be therapists, psychologists, and you need to be the person that we're trying to get acclimated back into society. Until we get that makeup, we're doing nothing more than a revolving door, right? Because again, it goes back to what I was saying before. The communities of color predominantly are feeding the prison system its 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And in turn, the prison system is feeding the communities of color like Roseland, 35 to 40-year-olds and stuff like that. And they're ill prepared to reintegrate. There's no family, there's no peaches and honey and sugar like my aunts and stuff like that's waiting. And so what it's doing is it's creating a cycle of ineptness that's perpetuated by the atmospheres in the community itself. So, you know, if we're going to break it, the only way we break it is to repair it. And to repair it is to have people who study people for a living to help us understand how do we treat and repair people. That's the mental health care world. And
are we moving towards that? Like, you know, we got books, we got people writing books, we got people that's advocating for jail systems. Is that somewhere we're moving towards?
We ain't doing nothing but a lot of talking right now.
I heard you first time.
That's what we're doing. We're doing a lot of talking right now. And the thing is, you know, just think about it. 1 year later, post George Floyd, do it look like things that got better? What people don't really realize and understand is the George Floyd bill itself was killed and voted against. It never even went through. So we're a year later, not any better. And it's just a bunch of talk. And for whatever reason, it doesn't seem to matter who you put in office right now. It's not being done. And so that lets me know that who we need isn't here yet. So we need to groom our babies to be the replacement of our justice oppressors.
That's it. That's it. I agree with you 100%. So it's on us. It's on us, the more knowledgeable ones, to give it to our kids to change the world.
That's it. And then it comes down to you know, treating the people that are closest to you the way you want to be treated. And at the same time that I believe the concept of prisons are totally off and wrong, we have to have a society with crime and punishment. But at the same time, why does it seem like people of color always get the short end of the stick? Why does it seem like, you know, here it is, you could literally get a text message on your phone to come outside and go get your marijuana like Uber Eats, but Keisha and Jamal and them still locked up from selling nickel bags in the 90s.
It's kind of weird that you're saying that because, like, you know, and I don't want to be personal with things and like just what like recently what's going on, and just with like the Kim Fox and the gun cases right now. You know, I don't know how, and this could go wherever we want to go, but I don't know how effective it is. You know, like we got people that's literally, I got people that's getting gun cases getting out the next day.
Yeah.
Like literally not sitting in jail at all for gun cases. But here's like the rebuttal from Fox, Kim. We got too many of us in there.
Yeah.
Is that like, and this is just obviously an opinion. Like, is that helping? Or is that helping?
It's not helping because the target is wrong. And here's what I mean by that. So if we don't know by now that locking up every kid on the south side of Chicago with a gun is not going to get us safer, then we'll never know anything. And so what needs to happen is the same thing that happened with the pharmaceutical industry. When these kids were getting addicted to these drugs and they were committing other crimes to feed their habit, or they were overdosing and just wreaking havoc on their families and their communities, those affluent communities didn't go after the drug dealers. They went after the true drug dealers, the pharmaceutical companies. Mm-hmm. Right? So explain to me how Illinois doesn't have one gun manufacturer, one bullet manufacturer, hell, I don't know if we even produce any parts that go to guns in the state of Illinois.
Right.
But we got all the dead Black boys in the South. So that's another example of what I'm saying. So don't stand up there and tell me how you can or can't prosecute people individually with guns when you need to be coming down to the podium, making an announcement about how you're going to hold gun manufacturers and gun shippers responsible for their guns that stop in the train tracks on the South Side and get broken into, and then the guns are all over the city. So I don't want people viewing this to think that, damn, this dude Jarrett Adams is just so intelligent. No, I'm just a boy from the South Side of Chicago who know what's going on, and I will not be, talked into any nonsense that isn't the true depiction of what's going on and what the solution is. The solution isn't locking up every boy walking around with a gun. The solution is coming after the manufacturers and the shippers and the suppliers to keep their guns from doing what it's doing in our communities.
We want to respect we want to respect this time, but I can talk about this forever.
Yeah.
Because that's 100% right. Yeah, the freight trains and all of that happened in our community that poured over and like they got robbed into, like we were there.
Yeah.
I was there. I'm 35. I was there.
Yeah.
And it affected us majorly. Because as soon as like the freight trains got, robbed or however you looked at it or poured over, it happened.
It happened.
But who sent it? Because if you don't have there's not a lot of, I know there's not a lot of me out here. Like my parents was like they were very adamant about me and being educated or like trying to like change something. Whatever they wanted to change, like you should go to school, get an education because I need you to. Mm-hmm. But it never stopped me from being, my surroundings, from me seeing it all. Mm-hmm. And I remember a long time ago, like when the freight train got robbed, there was a lot of guns.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the next summer, there was a lot of killing.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's exactly what happens. And so if you're 35, then you were about a teenager when Yummy Sandifer went on and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yummy book, like 21 North. We don't play about that.
Yeah.
We play Yummy story a lot. We because I'm intentional. You need to know what's going on. You need to know what they're doing to us.
Yeah.
Because knowledge is power. And that's cliche, but it is what it is. Knowledge is power. If you know what's going on, you do better.
Mm-hmm.
I tell my people around the neighborhood, like, y'all keep doing this, but it's a trap. Mm-hmm. You gotta beat the system. That's my only thing, because the system is never made for us.
It was never.
You gotta like finesse it a little bit. And
I want people to understand the true meaning of that. When we say the system was never for us, and I say this openly, is this: when they had the lantern on the table and a little feather pen when they was coming up with the constructs of the criminal justice system, the only way we was in that room is if we was delivering water to the people who were in there creating the criminal justice system. And so if we know that's how it was created, why should we ever be surprised by its disproportionate negative effects on the people who wasn't there when it was created?
On that note.
And that's why I think it's like our relationship is so unique. It's interesting, like how segregated the city is. And we do book pop-ups everywhere, and it's not related to the criminal justice system, but with books, we pop up all over the city. And, we know how important it is to give Black kids representation in their books. But we've also seen how important it is, we sell Yummy in Lincoln Park. People haven't heard of that story.
I know.
But, people need to, representation goes both ways. White people need to have these books too. And we're putting them in people's hands, and, maybe like it's not going to happen overnight, but, you know, we're starting conversations, bringing people
Absolutely.
together, you know, like one day at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you ladies are on to something. And like I said, I want to make sure that I'm here to support you all as well, because I'm always looking for ways to continue to keep a pipeline open from the South Side, you know? So,
Yeah, because we're underserved.
mhm.
We're underserved. Like it's especially the Roseland community.
Yeah, those
You know,
books
like
aren't the only
Roseland, we're
desert.
too close to Pullman.
Right.
We're too close to Pullman. So if it's any resources, they're going to give it to Pullman before they give it to Rose. And
Yeah.
okay, it is what it is. I'm just getting in the space where I'm noticing that.
Yeah.
Like I'm just a kid from the South Side. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a teacher as well.
Mhm.
But until like I started working with Pullman and Rose, I'm like, why y'all gonna give that to Pullman, not Rose? And we like literally next door to Pullman.
Yeah.
But because
Okay.
Pullman has that historic venture, that historic story about what they can give about the Pullman porters and things,
Right.
it's like null and void.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think nothing about, but Rosa needed the most because Pullman get resources. Rosa literally gets nothing.
Yeah.
No one wants to come to Rosa and invest, period.
Yeah.
But I live in Roseland. I'm okay. We okay. Why can't we get a bookstore? Why we are going through the most
Right.
to get like a bookstore? The Alderman, we are going through the most to
They're not
bring
If they want to keep it this way, that's how it feels.
You know, no matter how long it takes, we're gonna do it. It's gonna happen. You know, it is what it is, and I'm patient. But it just made me literally look at resources and like how they allocate it for like different communities and who they give it to and why they give it to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was telling Rebecca, she was saying like, yeah, he's from the South Side, he know, but 95th and by the DMV totally different from 104th and State.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
But they're gonna give Chicago State those allocations before they give it to us easily.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean,
it's weird.
That's why it goes back to what I'm saying, man. As we have to, you know, we gotta push some people through who don't go get educated downtown and then take off north, but they get educated downtown and come back south.
Yep.
And there's nothing wrong with living on the north side and stuff like that. But like, man, look, the cavalry ain't coming. We the cavalry.
We the cavalry.
You know?
I love that. I love that.
That's it.
This was amazing. This was a good conversation.
And the time
we didn't ask half the questions we want to ask.
Yeah.
But it was genuine. It was fluent.
Yeah.
It was real. And you know, all we want to do is like highlight local Black authors, you know, give us our flowers while we're here.
Indeed.
You know,
indeed.
I need people to know what you're doing. I need people to know why you're doing it. When we read this book, me and Rebecca had like dialogues, like after dialogue. I'm like, well, you saw when he said that. Remember when you said that? This is what I want for my community. Yeah. I just want everybody to like, it don't have to be as deep as Redeeming Justice. It could be Gabrielle Union, we need more wine for this. But I need my people to read a little bit more, because what I want in this community is high level conversations. I feel like if we know how to talk to people, we can decrease like the crime. We can decrease something to rise up something, because I live here and I got 2 boys here. It gotta happen.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a little bit more intentional right now because my boys, I bought a house in the community.
Yeah.
So look, we gotta do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's gonna happen too. It is. All right, ladies, look, it's been a wonderful time. Like I said, listen, I want you guys to book me when we back in person.
When you coming back?
When?
I'm back every month, but it's just like when Lori Lightfoot gonna let us outside? That's what the question is, you know.
But as soon as we get this brick and mortar, I promise you gotta come. You gotta represent the Black men in the community. Absolutely. They gotta see you, Jarrett.
I'm there.
Thank you so much for your time. We know how busy you are.
They
Yeah.
think we lying. When
Yeah.
we say they think when we say it's a rose that grew from concrete, they think we lying.
Mm-hmm.
But I need them to see you because you're a rose that grew from concrete. I'm a rose that grew from concrete, and they need to see it because they don't want to. I think they're tired of us saying it.
Yeah.
Like, show me, Miss Malone.
Yeah. Well, look, I can't wait to come back, and I'm most certainly gonna be there in person. You can believe that.
I believe you. I believe you.
All right, ladies, man, it's been fun. Okay. I
Thank
look
you so
forward to
much.
talking to you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.